today what we're going to talk about is this concept of how you can deploy or build your business utilizing partners. Now, partners in some instances or some circles is considered kind of a dirty word, if you will, or sometimes you'll go into a company that's an MSP or a VAR, and you'll say, hey, do you guys work with partners? And they're kind of like, well, no, we don't do that. And so I wanted to define like what a partner is, and then what that actually means. So we just define a partner as a solution partner, is kind of a longer way to say it, but it's really any partner that you work with that helps you support your customers. And that could be lots of different companies, could be manufacturers, could be, distributors, could be, field services companies like Chad's company. So we're going to unpack a little bit about that, what that is saying. But the first thing I want to do is establish is what is an actual solution partner, if you will, if you're a VAR or MSP, watching this webinar. And the second thing that I really just wanted to talk about before we get started is something that a lot of people maybe don't spend a lot of time thinking about. And that is that thinking about partnerships as a strategic advantage in business. And I want to talk about this for a second. If you think about it at your house, when you order cable service from your local telco provider or cable company, the person that shows up in that van and installs the service many times is not a badged, Spectrum or AT&T, company. And certainly today with the gig economy and the way that, you've seen companies like Uber build these kind of business models, we have to think about how can we Uberize, if you will, our service provider businesses, and then be able to utilize a model like that to expand and grow. And so I think a lot of people maybe don't even think about that, or they see a big brand like a big telco, like an AT&T or an IBM or whatever. And then when you actually work inside these companies, what you find out is that their service coverage and the way that they get to this, nationwide coverage is actually a network of partnerships. It's other companies that they're working with. And so I want to just kind of like reset the mindset of partners are bad, specifically deployment and things like that. The partners can actually be a huge advantage. And Chad, do you want to unpack any further than I did there?
No, I think that aligns very well with the way we view how you bring scale and predictability. So we work in the channel. So partners is how we deliver our service. So it's getting the right tech at the right time with the right skill set. So there needs to be transparency. There's a lot of different ways that these ecosystems are being set up today. There are good reputations, there are bad reputations. And the risk is that when you're working on your deployment, you're building your managed service offering, it's aligning with the partners that can act and behave with you in all these different types of events. And we certainly see the capacity now for any size service provider to be able to win and scale larger deals because they have the agility, they have the subject matter expertise. Our hope is that we can help bring some comfort to the idea of how do I get people on site. So if I'm selling a particular solution, I have to roll it out to 10 locations or 1,000 locations in one state or all states or even globally, that you now have a mechanism to do that. All the remote technologies that we're using, including the technology we're using for this event, has enabled that. So I think that is the architecture that the operators of these MSPs, when they start plugging in these right partnerships, I think there's opportunities for us to win deals that in the past only belong to the largest of providers are out there. So I think the opportunities are just spectacular in terms of that scale and scope. You have to be a subject matter expert and try to normalize that, getting it deployed or being able to scale this, be able to finance this. We have the mechanisms to do that. That's not going to be the obstacle any longer. So
I love it. Okay, so when we're talking specifically about network as a service, because that's obviously the topic of our webinar series, it really kind of changes how you have to look at the interaction that you have with a customer. And so what we are talking about is when you're selling an as a service model, you're really selling a relationship that's long-term. So if I'm just going to ship somebody firewalls as an example and even configure it for them, it's really transaction-based. Say it's point in time, hey, I deployed this for you. You're good to go. Call me when you need me. When you start talking about delivering it as a service model, now you're going in and you've got a 60-month relationship, and it really creates problems in the way you think about kind of your business. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the challenges you might have. And the first challenge is maybe there's gaps in capability. And I'm going to go deep into services and things like that today, because I think that's really important. But really, so the first problem one is I just have a problem. I'm missing something in my kind of capability. And Joey, we were talking about this earlier, specifically about kind of the smaller partners. Can you talk just a little bit about some of the challenges that the smaller MSPs are having in building, as a service models?
Yeah, great point. I think one of the things we're really seeing in the market now is tied directly to this is a talent shortage, right? And a key from the vendor's perspective to really help with this is to have technology that's scalable and easy to use for the service provider. And we'll get into exactly how we do that shortly. But things that we use like AI, intuitive management consoles, fantastic support resources are things that the service provider needs, right? Because they don't have the resources of an enterprise company out there. So, that's just for me. When I see that every day, there's an abundance of need there, where we talked about it a minute ago, of really having that partner community. Checkpoint is a 100% partner driven channel company. And it's absolutely key to offering an end-to-end solution. So totally agree with this being a big challenge in the market.
Yeah, and then from my perspective, being I was a service provider for 15 years, we had this problem where, it might be a gap in something that my team internally couldn't do. And I had to figure out where am I going to go to kind of fill this kind of services lifecycle. And the other thing we would see a lot is we were regional by nature. So we were based in the Carolinas. We could cover the territory well. So I had a few remote employees, but when we had to deploy in, Portland, that was a big problem. Do I put somebody on a plane? So we had the capabilities, we just really couldn't get there. And then the third kind of problem we saw on a regular basis is we really had the scalability problem. So, hey, we've got a big retailer that's coming in. Again, we're not a big company, but, we have several resources. But they want us to do 300 site surveys in 60 days. All right, well, how the hell are we going to do that? Like we have a lot of these like scalability kind of problems. So when we're thinking about resources challenges, what I would encourage everybody to do is just think about what your team looks like internally, and then we're going to map kind of the services capabilities to what your skills are internally.